This is Punk Rock and Politics, and today is February 28th, 2017, and this is episode number 10. Let's do this.
These days are strange, it's true.
I would bomb the shit out of them.
If you think that punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong.
Welcome to Punk Rock and Politics. Today we're talking to Space Mike, who has an important space update for us about NASA. And then we'll have David Dorenfeld join us in the political mosh pit as we discuss world music, veganism, and the meat industry. Then, on Open Mike's last call, we'll address the vote for the DNC chair. So let's get to the political mosh pit. But first, here's the news of the week.
Here's what's making news.
On Saturday, former Obama Labor Secretary Tom Perez beat Minnesota Congressmember Keith Ellison in the second round of votes for the DNC chair. Tom Perez's first issue was to appoint Keith Ellison as co-chair. The DNC also retracted a DNC rule implemented by former President Obama that forbid corporate donations. Looks like both parties officially work for the corporate elite. In space news regarding a recent NASA press conference, we have our local space guru, Space Mike, on the line to tell us more.
Yeah, so this announcement on Wednesday is pretty exciting. NASA announced that they discovered a bunch of exoplanets, which are planets around other stars that are fairly nearby. But the reason why it's so exciting is because 3 of the planets that they found around this other star are within that star's habitable zone. And what that means is that the temperature, because of the distance from that star, which is it's a dwarf star actually, it's smaller than our sun. The range that these planets are in is where it's not too hot and not too cold, so that liquid water could exist on the surface and they could have temperatures similar to like what we have here on Earth. So it's really exciting, and it's fairly close by compared to a lot of the other exoplanets that NASA has announced over the past couple of years. Most of them have been found, over 1,000 light years away, but this one is less than 40 light years away. So that's really cool. It's in the constellation Aquarius, and it's just really exciting that there's these 3 that could potentially essentially harbor life. And once they were discovered, the way that they were discovered first off was that telescopes, we were able to look at these stars and be able to see the planets as they cross the star in its orbit. So we see this little black spot kind of traveling across the star, and if we see it multiple times and are able to predict out what its orbit is, then we can confirm that, okay, that's a planet there. And so once they figured that out, NASA used a telescope that they have in space called the Spitzer Space Telescope. And it's kind of like the Hubble Space Telescope, but it works in ultraviolet rays instead of in the visible spectrum like Hubble does. So with ultraviolet, they were able to see the temperatures and detect not only the 3 planets that they detected through telescopes here on Earth, but they also found 4 other planets as well. The other ones aren't in the habitable zone of this star, but it's still just exciting that there is quite a few planets in this solar system. And with it being so close by, we're going to be able to do a lot more observations with it. Although the sad part about it, and the thing that always gets me depressed with stories like this, is that since it's just about 40 light years away with our current engine technology, we're never going to see it in our lifetimes unless we develop warp drive soon or something like that. But
Right.
then again, though, with all of Trump's government spending that he wants to do, we just might see a project like that. So who knows?
Yeah, but if we know, he'll probably gut the NASA spending and all sorts of stuff, except when it comes to military, like sending weapons and nukes up into space. I'm sure there'll be plenty of weapons. Or maybe we could build a wall, like a space wall.
Well, it's really interesting because Trump wants to get rid of all the Earth science programs that help us to get our daily weather data, not to mention all of the climate change research. But he wants to funnel that money from the Earth science departments into human space flight. And he wants us to go back to the moon and go to Mars and do all this really cool stuff that would be cool, but might not necessarily have a lot of science benefits if it's flag and footprint missions. So it's actually kind of been surprising to me to see that Trump does support space, but he's very selective about what he wants to support in space. So
right, and we need to kind of look at it all and have every aspect of future exploration, because if we're only looking at one part of it, we're going to miss something, definitely. And I actually heard that the star, since it's a smaller star, it's going to burn longer than our Earth or our sun. So it'll last like 1 trillion years longer than our planet. So theoretically, if we don't kill ourselves and we actually evolve to have some sort of hyperdrive or warp drive, we could maybe colonize that planet, or maybe more. Because if there was 7, which 3 in the Goldilocks zone, that's the probability of that for other stars is kind of a lot higher.
Yeah, and the thing with this star too is it's actually still really young, man. It's early in its formation. Like our sun is roughly 4.6 billion years old, but this particular star is only about 500 million years old. So it's still just a baby, and it's going to keep growing and getting bigger. And eventually, the Goldilocks zone is going to expand, and probably the innermost one that's in the Goldilocks zone right now is going to get too hot and possibly have like an effect like Venus has here in our solar system, if there's even an atmosphere there. That's the thing. We don't even know what sort of elements are even on these planets yet. That's why we got to do more observations.
So even if theoretically, if some sort of life could have been started there or is starting there, it's definitely in the early stages, since the planet isn't that old, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. I mean, all we have to go off of is how life developed here on our planet. But I mean, just to go from single-celled organisms into more complex life, that process here on Earth took about 2 billion years. So, I mean, even if life does exist on one of those Goldilocks planets right now, it's probably still like in the single cell, maybe some sort of bacteria stage.
Amoeba or something, yeah. Mm-hmm. But even if we could find amoebas on another planet, that would open up huge doors and huge questions and more possibilities. And I was kind of thinking, it's kind of cool because this gives humans like purpose in a way, because it kind of seems like with Trump and all the things that are going on nowadays, it kind of seems like humans are lacking purpose. And I think space and expanding our horizons is a purpose that we all can get around, but who knows?
Absolutely. It's definitely very interesting.
Yeah, we're definitely living in great times. So if people want to hear more about space and like talking about your space podcast, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. If you want to watch videos of me giving different summaries of news that's been coming out with NASA and Russia and China, you can visit my personal YouTube channel at Epic Future Space. Just type in Epic Future Space to Google or YouTube, and you'll find that. And then I also do space news for another channel called Tomorrow, which we spell TMRO, like the kids do. And you can check out videos there and catch up on the latest of what's going on in space right now.
Nice, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for taking a swing down from your spaceship to talk to us Earthlings, and go back up to the International Space Station, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Mike.
On this day in rock history, February 28th, 1989, Bob Dylan recorded the first sessions for the Oh Mercy album at The Studio in New Orleans, Louisiana. These recordings eventually became Dylan's 26th studio album, released by Columbia Records in September 1989. And that's the news of the week! It's not often when I find an artist who's so passionate about an issue that it definitely reflects in their music. David Dorenfeld is one of those artists. David is a music teacher who strives to learn new instruments, teach anyone about the benefits of a vegan life, and inspire others through his fun yet thought-provoking music. We were able to get David to join us in the political mosh pit, but before we get to the interview, let's check out one of his songs. Here's Ahimsa by David Dorenfeld.
Ahimsa, to not do harm. It's the food that you eat that gives me alarm. It's not a farm, it's a kill house, my friend. We're eating our way to our own end. Gotta defend animals against sin. People don't like to see it, so instead they pretend. But you can't stop illness, you can't stop pain, you can't stop disease, you can't stop weight gain, you can't complain when you drink what you stole and you eat another soul and there's tears in your bowl. Mind control, it is the new diet. Better keep quiet for the industry riots. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. Ashraya Paravritti is letting go of everything that you always believed, to take a leap into the unseen or unknown. It's hard to believe what we do when we eat, then we sleep and repeat. It starts in the morning when the lungs of the earth are taken from her. What's the Amazon worth? Carbon dioxide is floating around. You're gonna be sorry that you made more room for more cows. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. Force the mom to get pregnant, take her baby right away. The lost baby cries and the mom screams his name. That's not a happy cow, but consumers are so proud that they eat happy meat and eggs cage-free. But the birds live in darkness, they can't move around. These cage-free chickens suffer to the slaughterhouse. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. Politically inconvenient if you find out how that dead piece of meat came into your house. Fish swim around in dirty drug water, caged like pigs, suffocated like chicks. That's not a trick, they throw baby chicks in a bag. Makes you sad that it's standard practice. Fish are going extinct, the same as dyed pink. Even fish oil in your alcoholic drink. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. The truth about your food is the faces on your plate. The truth about your food. Come on and change, come on and change. The truth about your food. Say come on and change, come on and change. The truth about your food. Say come on and change, come on and change. The truth about your food. Come on and change, come on and change.
So that was Ahimsa by David Dorenfeld. Hey, what's up, David? Thanks for coming to Punk Rock and Politics.
Hey, man. No problem.
Yeah, man. You know, that chorus, the line, the truth about your food is the place is on your plate. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So did I tell you, where I got that from?
No, you didn't. Tell us.
So I mean, I've been vegan for it's been like 5 years now. And, I had watched like a bunch of documentaries and, I had read a few books, but I was at the library with my girlfriend and somewhat recently, and then she grabbed this book and it just looked really interesting because there was like a deer and it was on a plate. And the title of the book was The Truth About Your Food, The Face That's on Your Plate. Or it's called The Face That's on Your Plate, The Truth About Your Food.
Yeah.
And I read it, and like just that one message, though, just like that one kind of line sounded really cool to me. And I feel like it kind of summed everything up and the way I feel about eating animals. And I read the book, so all the lyrics in that book, I literally just took notes. I just took notes. I just read the book. I took notes on like facts and things that he said, and then I just turned it. I just made it lyrical. So
Nice. Yeah. It's so much. Like every time I listen to it, I hear a new little factoid or a new little saying or something.
Right.
I'm just like, oh yeah, it's awesome. I really, really like that. That was the first song I heard of yours. It was really cool.
thanks.
So how long have you been playing music? And you said you've been a vegan for 5 years. So have you
Yeah.
always been incorporating your veganism with music?
No. I mean, I started playing music when I was about 14, and I remember I kept going to my best friend's house for like a week because I found out he played guitar, and I was going over there just to play his guitar, and he would teach me stuff, and he played like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, and I was like, oh my God, you are so cool. I was always in love with guitar, and I had tried it a few times, but I sucked, and then I was just like, I didn't have the willpower, I guess, to do it. But then, so I got a guitar when I was 14, and then immediately after, I met my best friend, and we had a chemistry class together, and I found out he played bass guitar. So we made a band like right away, and I had only been playing guitar for a couple months, and I started getting lessons right away, and I was obsessed with making my own music. That's like just the creative side was what made it really attractive to me. And so as soon as I got the guitar, and then we made a band, and we started making songs, and I got lessons, and every time I had a lesson, I would learn something new, and then I would take it and I'd try to remake whatever I learned into something original. Right. And everything I made was pretty much garbage. And I was not that great at songwriting or guitar. Even though it's funny because we made this terrible album in high school. My dad's like, you guys had some great songs. But, we tried to find a singer and we couldn't, and we didn't have a lot of luck. So we decided we were going to start singing, and we were awful. Right. I'll have to send you, you should put some of these terrible songs up maybe as a sample. You can hear how I improved. But, so we started doing that, and I had been in bands with him from the beginning of high school all the way through college. And then I didn't do anything for a while, and then we had a band after college, and we had a girl drummer who was pretty amazing. So we always had like 3-piece bands, but I was never really more than, ironically, you got the punk rock and politics show. I mean, we really just punk pop music, and we started getting into this sort of underground indie sound or something, and then that was pretty much it. But along the way, I was so obsessed with songwriting and other instruments. I bought a drum set off a friend who used to play drums with us, and I started learning drums. In college, I started playing piano, and I just kept picking up different instruments. So I know we're not playing this song on the show tonight, but the last album that I made, I wrote all the songs, I did all the vocals. With the exception of, I had a girl who's used to be one of my students. She sang some backing vocals on this one track. But I played the piano, I played mandolin, and I learned harmonica. For a brief period, I wanted to play harmonica. I learned harmonica. I did all the acoustic guitars. I did the electric. I did the bass guitar. Like I said, I did all the singing. I'm really into strange things and things that nobody else is doing. So I got spoons, and I learned how to play spoons. I watched a YouTube video on it.
I don't know. Does anyone know how to play spoons anymore? I mean, that's kind of a lost art these days.
I'm a revival artist, So I'm gonna, if it's okay, I can probably kind of sum up my whole musical journey pretty quickly. So I got into all these instruments, and I use those for songwriting. And I would arrange all the songs for the band. I would have some things already made before I even show my band members. And I started getting into recording. And right now I'm using Logic Pro. And so I started producing pretty early, like while I was still in college. I started getting into that. So I was making home demos all the time. And then so I had all these bands, and then I just stopped. And I was really disappointed. I was just like, I just wasn't really happy with how good I was or where I was. And I was tired of playing the same music, I guess. So I stopped for a while, and then I was like super depressed for a while. And, I still played music, but I started teaching music. So that was like the one really positive shift in my life. And that's what I do now. I'm a private music teacher, and I do that full time.
Cool.
Yeah, it's great. And I love kids. Like, they're just so funny. Yeah. And, it's really fun. So, I didn't have a lot going on. And then, but I was still writing songs. And then something happened. Like, I don't know why, but I saw this guy at open mic night play this strange instrument. And I believe it was a kalimba, which I have now, which is an African instrument. And it's like got these tines. It's kind of like if you can imagine a rake and plucking the different scrapers on a rake. And I was like so blown away that this guy was playing this strange African music and singing, and he was a white guy, and he was an instructor at this college. And then one day I was like, I want to listen to new music, and I want to listen to something positive and uplifting. And I've always been very earthy, and I love acoustic guitar, and I love acoustic sounds. So I emailed him. I told him, I watched his videos online. They were all playing djembe, and djembe is the main hand drum instrument in Africa. And I went and I had a lesson with him. I bought a djembe, and I got so big into African music. And then also at about the same time, right before that, I got into black musicians playing blues music, like all the solo musicians. So that changed my life, starting with the blues artist. And it was music I never liked before. I listened to Sum 41 and Blink-182 and Green Day and Nirvana and really heavy stuff. And I don't know, I heard the blues, and everything changed. And so I started doing that, and then I got into African music, and I started going to drum circles. And now where I'm at is I love modern music, and I love classic rock, and Led Zeppelin is my all-time favorite band. I'm obsessed with Led Zeppelin. I listen to them every day until the time. But yeah, I got really big into world music now. So like, I really love Latin music, and I love African music, and it's just, I love things that are rhythm, that have a foundation.
Rhythm-oriented, kind of.
Right, rhythm-oriented music. And this guy, I'm going to email him, I swear I am. His name's like Ravi G or Jai or something. I randomly found him, and he plays an African kora. And a kora is basically like a harp. It's like African harp. And it's the most beautiful instrument, and this guy just plays the crap out of it. And, when I listen to it, it's like meditation music, and it's so inspiring. So although I don't really have this music up online right now, I've been making and recording all of this really kind of more world music and ambient things, and I'm fusing things. I'm really interested in fusion. But that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I probably just talked your head off and gave a lot of information you didn't need.
I think it's good. I think it's really cool to expand your horizons and hear different music. I mean, and when people do that, it changes music forever. I mean, if you look, for example, like George Harrison with the Beatles,
right?
Going out to India and bringing back the sitar and all that sound. It really added to the music, and also changed how people looked at it. How is this music scale in those other African instrument you're saying? Is this scale? It's got to be different, right?
African music actually sounds like Western music. Like, it's very, I would say it's major scale based. So it's actually really similar. It's more of the note choices, I guess I would say that they'll sing, like they sing a lot of things that aren't resolved, whereas when we're singing, everything resolves, and it's very predictable,
right.
And their music has more tension. in a lot of things, and it's a little more mystical sounding to me. But I think the primary difference is, like I was saying, just like the rhythm aspect, and I am obsessed with rhythm, and I like coordinating my limbs. So like I play drum set. And, I've got this one drum student who's really advanced, and we were doing bossa nova. And when you do a rhythm that is not a Western rhythm, that has a lot of syncopation, you're playing on offbeats, I mean, it just makes you want to get up and move. And it's funny, too, because even if something's not fast paced, people will hear a lot of the music that I might listen to or you might listen to and say, you can't dance to that, There's this idea that it's not happening, right? It's not like a rap song and the hook, the second the song starts, you have a hook and you're pretty much already heard the whole song. When you listen to music, I'm dancing inside. You're dancing. It's like there's so much going on. So I like the spirituality of world music, but I also connect with modern music and American music because that's basically all I listened to my entire life. So
there's really something. There's something to add offbeat. Really, it gives that, like you said, that tension, and it adds. Yeah, that's, and then like you were saying, the jazz also, how it has that unpredictability of it, compared to modern music, and also I think that's a problem nowadays with modern music and the advent of computers and the vocoders and everything. Now music is so predictable, and like it always ends so predictably that now when people hear something that's different, it's almost like off-putting, kind of like the atonal music back in the early turn of the century.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's funny. My girlfriend has gotten me into Sia. And she is a phenomenal singer and incredibly talented. It's funny because write other people's songs, and a lot of the songs sound the same because artists aren't writing their own songs anymore at all. And I know this has been happening forever. I mean, people have been playing other people's songs, but it's like I think there was a lot more diversity before, and now that a lot of the diversity is gone, and it's because it's everybody's trying to have a unique image. So the diversity is, I feel like, more image based and less musically based. And it's not even that it's bad. It's not that pop music is bad. It's just like, to your point, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's so cookie cutter based, and a lot of the musicians now, I'm just impressed by their dedication and their tenacity at how well they done. But then when it comes to their their talent and everything, I'm like, it kind of disappoints me. I will say I did watch the Super Bowl. Well, I slept through half of it, but I saw a little bit. I went home and watched the halftime. I'm not a big Gaga fan, and actually kind of wanted to watch it just to kind of like hate on her. But I will say she actually was quite impressive. She played, 3 or 4 instruments, was dancing, was singing.
Oh yeah, they're talented for a reason.
Yeah,
they're famous for a reason. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and she's dedicated and been doing this forever. So there's some people like her where I'm not necessarily a fan, but I could look and I'm like, well, at least she's doing music good in a whole. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's still vocoded and it's still building that mainstream thing. So. Yeah.
When you say vocoded, are you referring to just editing, or are you referring to auto-tune?
I'm pretty much referring I'm kind of referring to the combination of both to just make vocals just perfect. You know what I mean? There's heavy auto-tuning, like the classic TI thing. I think that's kind of fun and kind of cool. If you're going to do it, it's like go all out and like do it like Daft Punk or something, like make it all out. Right. But if you just do it a little bit to make yourself sound so perfect, and then on live performances you're lip syncing, it's just like what we might well have the Tupac hologram come back and perform for us. Like, what's having live performance if they're not actually performing, Right.
And it takes it takes a lot of the emotion out of it. And Robert Plant is just one of my favorite singers, and he even he'll be kind of pitchy sometimes and he'll get off key, but I love it. I love when he's basically making orgasm noises in like half the songs. He's like, and like nobody does that. And he's not singing. He's not trying to sing a note. He's just expressing himself. Exactly. And I love that raw sound. And that's why I'm so like African music. I'm like, this is the music of people that are living basically outside in the dirt, walking around without shoes sometimes. And I just like that earthy feeling. And then the more electronic you get, I don't feel grounded.
The further you move away from
It doesn't feel.
So music is a communal thing when they're in their society, in that society, because it's a group thing. Here, it's more individualistic, just like our society is.
Right. I feel you're reading my mind right now.
Right? Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. So let's go to one more song.
Okay.
So let's check out. This is Dumpland by David Dorenfeld.
Here come the jelly man looking for his fill. Sugar drug snack shaped like a round pill. Fat kid drinking meat pie. You can see the dead cow sitting in the dead eye. Wonder why the chicken crossed the road. So the chicken salad chick could put death in the bowl. People crying ranch, pouring out the face. Pimple covered preteens, fried all the fine things. Mommies and the daddies got greasy skin too. They don't eat hoes, but they do sniff glue. Everybody looks with the tongue hung at the fast food dump truck. Everybody looks with the tongue hung at the fast food dump truck. Here come the steakhead looking for his knife. Wanna cut some blood, wanna feel alright. Takes out the organs, removes the eyes. Kicks away the brains, leaves the veins inside. Sloppy Joe heart attack, sitting on some fat back. Grilling and chilling on a butterbean bag. Scoop out the flesh from the cock and staying dressed. Buy it wrapped up, give it to your best friend. Everybody looks with the tongue strung to the fast food dump truck. Everybody looks with the tongue strung to the fast food dump truck. I want a dead cow, I want a dead pig. I want a dead chicken, I want a dead fish. I want breast milk for a baby cow. Drink it for myself, give it to my kids. I want a dead animal, put it on my plate. I eat a dead animal, and then I feel great. Here come the kids with the ice cream cup. Drips out the nose and slides out the butt. Meathead Steve likes his meat, puts it in his mouth, that's where he likes to be pleased. Please, please, give me that disease. Everybody's craving flesh in their teeth. High class women and high class men. Cowskin shoes, cowskin bags, cowskin belts, cowskin jackets. Furry little creatures on the neck, so fabulous. Aren't they pretty with the dead shit on? Aren't they pretty with the dead shit on? Aren't they pretty with the dead shit on? Let's test on the test on the animals. Makeup on the fake faces like a cannibal. Test on the test on the animal. Yeah.
Alright, so that was Dumpland by David. So, alright, man. So that was a perfect song to get us right into the political mosh pit here. So, David, there's like so much going on in that song with those lyrics. Again, you got to tell us what's up with that.
So, I can tell you musically at the time, I was digging on Beck very hard. And, my parents would listen to Beck. They had the Odelay album. And I started listening to that again. And Beck is very strange, and he's very like bluesy, and it's just like it's all about like a kind of a funky beat and stuff. So Beck his lyrics are really random and they're really insightful at the same time. I don't know if it's deliberate. And I was like, all right, I'm going to write a song that sounds really weird and has really strange words, but I'm going to put meanings. I'm going to put hidden meanings in everything I write. And, this guy told me that Beck would just say a bunch of random nonsense that his uncle or something used to say. And, he has a line that stuck out to me. He said, in the song E-Pro, he says, talking trash to the garbage around you. And I'm like, that is genius. Like, it's just like really clever, really clever pun.
Yeah.
You know? So I made this beat up. So it almost always starts with the music because the music is how I feel. So I made this little do 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 do, and it's kind of bluesy. And then I'm just thinking, I don't want to go and say that because somebody is overweight that they're not trying to be healthy or that they're not even vegan. I know a ton of vegans that are overweight or not healthy. You're like, by being vegan or vegetarian, it doesn't all mean that you're healthy.
Yeah,
so anyway, I'm just thinking in my head of caricatures, and I'm thinking of people. I'm trying to like create this image in my mind of a twisted way of seeing the world as a vegan and looking at a world that's not vegan. So I'm thinking, okay, here comes the jelly man. Here comes this guy, and he's just looking for jelly stuffing. So he's like, here comes the jelly man looking for his fill. Sugar drug snack shaped like a round pill. So I'm thinking jelly donuts, and he's looking for his snack, and it's shaped like a pill because all pills are round, and it's filled with jelly. Let's see. Let's see. What do I say? Here comes a jelly man looking for a fill. Sugar drug snack shaped like a round pill. Fat kid drinking meat pie. You can see the dead cow sitting in his dead eye. So, I really believe that you can kind of look into somebody's soul when you're looking into their face and you're looking into their eyes. And I'm thinking, okay, nobody's drinking a meat pie. That's absolutely disgusting. But to me, just eat the act of eating meat is disgusting. So I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to make it sound as disgusting as I perceive it to be. So I made that and thinking, okay, so everybody's consuming this, and there's a little bit of death in their face because that's what they're doing. And I teach a lot of kids. And they're just the sweetest kids in the world. And there's all these people that are really great people and they're really sweet, but they are eating things that they're eating carcasses and they're eating things that are dead and don't look healthy to me. And, I can see it in their eyes, and virtually everybody I teach has rings under their eyes these days. And I don't know if that's just because we're on the computer all the time, we're staring at the screen, but...
In that song, Dumpling, you're talking about, like, the process of the eating meat. So, so in our society, we all know about the military-industrial complex. Do you think, tell us about like what you think the meat industrial complex is and why that is also contributing to meat being so horrible, even more so than it would have been 100 years ago.
Right. So I guess what I would say is it's all about money at this point. I don't think that I don't think that nobody would argue that eating fruits and vegetables is not a healthy way to go. Everybody would say that's really healthy. We have so much research coming out saying just not eating meat entirely or not eating dairy is a healthier choice. The question becomes, well, so why are we still eating it? Why is the change so slow? And the sad truth is that the people that are in charge make a lot of money off the meat industry because it became really, really successful, and people have always eaten meat. It wasn't good, but it wasn't such a huge part of a person's meal or diet. And what's happening now is everybody's having meat or some form of dairy, whether it's cheese, butter, ice cream, yogurt, probably 3 times a day. And that's what I was eating until I was 23 or 24, maybe until about 23. And, like I was talking to my girlfriend the other night about, the government's food pyramid, which is now my plate. And, it's always been included in it. And I really feel like the my plate thing is very symbolic and telling as to why this is still going on or why change isn't happening. And you look at the plate and it says fruits, it says veggies, I think it says grains, and it says protein, and then it says dairy. The only reason dairy and meat are a part of that at this point is because the people that work for the government also have ties or work for the meat industry or the dairy industry. And, there's people on the EPA, people on the FDA that have previously worked for meat companies or dairy companies. Maybe it's Tyson, or maybe it's like a dairy council. And they're the people that are regulating our food. They're the ones that are supposed to tell us something's safe or is not safe. And I think they would be telling us to not have so much if they didn't have monetary interest involved. So, you look at my plate and it's just, they're not gonna stop or change right now because it's just, there's too much money involved. And so meat's subsidized and dairy subsidized. It's the cost of creating meat and dairy is incredibly high, much higher than fruits or vegetables. So really, it should cost a lot of money, but it's subsidized and make it cheap.
It's subsidized by and then
by the government.
The industry spent approximately $10.8 million on lobbying, basically in that year. So I mean that also the lobbyists, they go in money to the meat industry, and then the people who work the FDA, they were once in the meat industry, or they go in the FDA, then get a job in the meat industry after. And we see the same exact thing with Wall Street, with the government, with Wall Street, and with the Treasury Secretary. Every Treasury Secretary has worked for Goldman Sachs. Then we see this with the military. And we see this with, even with the tech industry. So we're seeing this with every industry, and it's everyone really focuses on Wall Street and the military, but the meat industry is really kind of hidden. It's put aside because people love meat, and they get really offended. So let's go into. So I have another question. So there's kind of like two schools of thought. Okay. I mean, let me tell everyone. I don't eat meat. I do eat fish. Because I love sushi, but I try to eat as little meat as I possibly can, and I think it's a great lifestyle. But I've noticed, kind of from the sidelines, that there's two schools of thought. There's one who wants, the PETA, hardcore PETA, they want to put out the graphic videos of the animals being eaten and the disgusting meat and everything. Then there's the other side, kind of, who wants to live by example and just happen.
So what different times I'm a frustrated vegan, and when I wasn't vegan, and I used to admire people that didn't eat meat. My sister was vegetarian before I did anything. And I thought I felt bad for her. I was like, man, she's really sacrificing a lot because I thought I had to eat meat. Okay. So I watched the documentary and I was outraged, and then instantly I changed. So for me, the most means of change was simply education. I mean, the second I got information, I changed. I think on an individual basis, it's just simply about education. It's not about arguing your opinion or your emotions as much. I've done that plenty of times, but it fails with most people because nobody wants to feel guilty. I'm willing to feel guilty because guilt is ultimately what makes you want to change. If you feel guilty about it, you're not as likely to want to change. It has to be something that you don't feel right about, because for most vegans, I would say it's more of a moralistic choice. There are people that go vegan because they have to save their health. What I found is education on an individual basis is the only truly effective way. But if you're talking about making serious change, my girlfriend she's an environmental major. She's still in school studying it. And she really wants to make a difference in communities, teach people how to grow communities and plant food and be able to grow their own food. You have to change the system. It's the only way. We're doing a good job. I think a lot of people, just like there's more vegan restaurants opening up, there's more vegan choices. Today I told my dad, my whole family's vegan. My dad is almost vegan. I don't know if he'll ever fully commit or not. But I said, man, you got to come to Witch Witch. They've got this black bean sandwich. It's so good. It's kind of freaky because it kind of tastes like pulled pork just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you got to come here. And they've got all the meat there still. It's just like Whole Foods. Whole Foods is like a haven for vegans, but they still have meat because they're not stupid. They can't run a company and not sell animal products. So, we went to Which, and they've got these vegan options. And I'm like, there's got to be somebody vegan or something in this company, or they're just really smart and they're selling to everybody. Yeah. So we go there, and I didn't buy any meat, and we just got these sandwiches. They were really, really good. That's a really positive change. It's a change in the system. People are going to go to restaurants and eat out no matter what happens. Mm-hmm. So you have to start presenting the options. We have to make it to where people can start growing their own food. Communities can grow fruits and vegetables. You have to put the power in the hands of the people. And right now, we are entirely dependent upon farmers who don't even make a living. They can't even sustain themselves. The farmers are basically broke, whether they're animal farmers or produce farmers.
Well, especially the corn industry, and then the corn industry, that's how we're
getting which now
corn syrup.
Right, and it's funny now because those people now on all the packaging they say no high fructose corn syrup, and they're trying to label things as healthy, which aren't healthy, and they say everything's gluten free. I mean, it's like they might as well put gluten free on water bottles. It's like it's like, wow, this is gluten. Have this now, and most are naturally gluten free because there's not wheat in it, and they say low fat this, low fat that, and I feel like people are really concerned about the wrong things. And as far as nutrition labels, they only put the things on the nutrition labels that people are taught to be concerned with, which is fat, protein, carbs, and sugar. So that's all people are concerned about. They're not really concerned as much about all these different minerals, all these different other vitamins. And people are convinced that you have to have a lot of protein. And, I recently, I teach this kid. He's the sweetest kid in the world. And I showed him a hymba, and he started learning it on guitar. He's doing a great job. He started asking me a few questions. I started explaining the song. And I found myself crossing a line as a teacher, and I ended up apologizing to the parent, But he threw a fit. He was sad. He didn't want to eat animals anymore. But his mom said he has allergies. The doctor said he needs protein. He doesn't eat vegetables. And it's just really irresponsible on the system's part, on the doctor's part. I feel like on the parents' part. And, I tried offering information. I said, look, you should read the China study. This guy who, Colin Campbell, 27 years at Cornell, biochemist, spent most of his life studying protein. And, turns out we don't need very much. And animal protein can cause cancer. And we have a lot of evidence. And there's a lot of evidence that statistically that's just been collected over the years showing people that eat a lot more meat have higher risk of cancer versus people who eat less meat. And brought up the plate issue, and they don't put meat on the plate. They put protein. And,
like
those are interchangeable. Right, it could be, but that's not what's implied. People don't think, I need to have tofu or I need to have beans with my meal. They're really thinking about meat. One time I went to the YMCA. I just signed up to be a member. I said something. I said, I ate like mangoes today or something. And she said, you got to get a protein. Like, what the hell does that mean? I have breakfast, I have 3 mangoes. I feel phenomenal. Yeah. I have a protein deficiency. I'm trim as hell. I've never been this healthy. Ironically, I do have a cold right now. I didn't get a lot of sleep last weekend, and I was out doing a lot of things. But I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. I feel amazing. I've never met somebody with a protein deficiency. It just, these things don't happen. And if somebody has a protein deficiency, they have a calorie deficiency. They're not eating enough food. I mean, if you eat enough food and you're eating fruits and vegetables, they're so dense in all the vitamins and minerals you need. And the whole thing about protein is just getting enough amino acids. And you don't even have to combine foods. Most foods have all the amino acids, the 9 essential amino acids. There are a few that are complete, like quinoa, hemp, and soy, but you don't have to eat these foods to do that. Our body stores the amino acids, and then once you've eaten a small variety of foods, the chains are complete, and you get all these acids. And it's just an education issue. Like, if people realize you don't need that much protein, if somebody's bodybuilding, no question, they need more protein, but all they have to do is eat more calories. They don't have to think of necessarily eating more isolated protein or eating foods rich in protein. Just eat more calories. And if they are concerned with that, per calorie, beans are just as high in protein as meat. And there's a huge difference between getting protein from beans and getting protein from meat. And that huge difference is there's no saturated fat. Meat is super high in saturated fat. There's zero cholesterol. You never have to worry about cholesterol if you're eating plants because they don't have any. And if they do, it's such an unbelievably trace amount. You will only see 0 milligrams on a plant food. And there is fiber. Beans are loaded with fiber. And our country has unbelievable digestive issues. And people are, whether they have diarrhea, they have bloating, they have gas, they're constipated. They're eating a lot of food, dairy, zero fiber.
The fiber, I used to work at a bakery, so I'm like a total bread snob now. And I've noticed, I've been looking on a lot of the bread. A lot of the bread only has 1 gram, 2 grams of fiber. And it should be up to like 4 grams, per slice if it's good. Sometimes you can find something that's 5 grams. But like you said, it's so much better for your digestive tract to get that fiber in.
Right.
Well, you're saying a little bit before about feeling guilty. I do have to admit, something that happened to me recently. I don't know if you've heard of a guy. His name's Rob Greenfield.
I have not heard of him. No.
He's like he's very like an activist. He lived in a tiny house and then he crossed the country. But recently he did a thing in New York City where he lived like a normal person, but he kept all of his trash on him. So all of his trash, he ate Big Macs and would drink coffees, and then he would clean out the container and put it on him. So he's wearing it, and I think he did it for like 30 days. So at the end of 30 days, he barely could walk around. He had so much trash. And so that, like you're saying, you got to feel guilty. So that, I was like, well, that's so funny, but then I'm getting stuff and I'm throwing things away, and he says, once you throw it away, it just is gone. It's out of sight, out of mind. And I'm kind of like, man, that's so true. So that got me trying to reduce what I use a lot more. But like you said, the whole Rob Greenfield, he's a really, really awesome environmentalist and activist.
Now, is he vegan though?
I'm pretty sure he's
he
vegan.
is.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah. He's like vegan normally, but his big thing that he promotes is dumpster diving. That's like his thing because he's trying to show how much food waste we throw away every day and how the food is still good. So that's he goes across country with me and hitchhikes and then dumpster dives and God. He did all sorts of stuff. It's really interesting.
Well, he sounds like a vegan because. Yes. Vegans are a strange and unique people. Yes.
And I think that's why all the kind of hate and the whole thing comes about. Okay, so as we head out here, I want to say thanks for stopping on Punk Rock and Politics. New music. Here's our last one by David Dorenfeld. You're So Special.
You're so special to me. You don't know how special you can be. People say no, so I try to agree. But every time I'm with you, I feel something deep. I feel my soul push against my body. How many people do you know? They can say these things. Not many. I feel you, I feel love. I feel you, I wanna hug. I feel in love and I feel above. I feel my heart, then I feel your heart. I feel my heart, then I feel your heart. Oh. Come on now. You don't know how special you are to me. love and how good it can be.
Welcome to Open Mic's Last Call. Tonight we're going to be talking about the DNC chair, the election. It was between Keith Ellison and Tom Perez. They were the two frontrunners. There's several other people running. Rohan was another one. He was a Bernie-crat type of progressive running, and he actually got 0 votes in the running. And then there's another Puccinelli or something. That was Howard Dean's little lackey that he was pushing, who is another kind of conservative Democrat. He's the mayor from South Bend, Indiana. And what requires to be a mayor in South Bend, Indiana is probably not what you'd want representing the Democratic Party as a national whole. But, that's just a thought. So, like we said in the news earlier, and I'm sure everyone already knows, Tom Perez won. He's the former labor secretary under President Obama. But it's really interesting to see the party in such divide. But even if it was Keith Ellison who would have won, it's not that big of a departure from the big money and the corporate donor class, because one of the rules, the laws that Obama put in place for the DNC was that the DNC organization would not take any money from corporate donors or any special interests. But how Obama was really able to do that for over the 8 years that he did that was he had an organization called OFA, or Organizing for America. And that organization would definitely take corporate money and private money. And that's kind of how Obama skirted that rule. And now that the Democratic Party doesn't really have OFA working with them so much, pushing their agenda, now they really need that money. And also they're not getting, as Keith Ellison said, he wanted to get a million $10 donations rather than $100,000 donations, but that's not going to them either, because those donations are going to people like Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein and other local smaller congressional races. So the Democratic Party is really they're kind of hurting right now for money, and so they repealed that ban, said we're going to take corporate money, and then they said we're going to put up Tom Perez, who's, a corporate lackey up there. I was actually reading an article and they were trying to tout Tom Perez as, he's so progressive. He was the most progressive member of Barack Obama's cabinet. And well, okay, he didn't support a $15 minimum wage. He wasn't out on the picket lines with any of these protests. He barely even supports union rights from what I could see. He's a big civil rights activist, which that's great. But labor rights, I didn't see very much in his record. So to say that he's the most progressive member in Obama's cabinet, sure, okay, that's awesome, but Obama's cabinet was filled with a bunch of corporatists like Timmy Geithner from Goldman Sachs, and so it doesn't really matter if you're the most progressive out of a whole bunch of people who only help the corporate interests. So I have a little quote here after they won. Perez and Ellison kind of came together. Perez actually named Ellison the deputy chair of the party. I said earlier in the news is the co-chair. It's actually the deputy chair. I don't think there's even a difference, because online, there's several places online where Keith Ellison's name isn't even written or recognized as the deputy chair. So I think it was more of a symbolic gesture, and it probably isn't even really going to mean anything. So one of the quotes from Perez is, it kind of reminds me of Thanksgiving dinner at my house, when we have the extended family and we have spirited discussions and we have viewpointed diversity. And then we lock hands and celebrate our shared interest. So, okay, I see what he's trying to say there. However, it's totally different from Thanksgiving dinner, because at Thanksgiving dinner, you're all humans sitting around a table who are humans and have a normal life. Here with the Democratic Party, it's actual people and workers and activists getting to table with corporations and corporate interests who aren't people, and they do not have the same shared interests. See, and that just shows you how he doesn't even understand that the corporations do not share the same shared interests as the workers, as the people. It's not, because corporations, which you can't fault them for this, their number one objective is to get money. Humans' number one objective is to live. And a lot of times, corporations getting money doesn't really line up with humans being able to live. Health insurance is a perfect example of that. It's more important for health insurance companies to make profit than to lose money and help more people live. So in that context right there, the health insurance companies have a direct conflict with what humans need. So it's not like we could just sit around and lock hands. And actually, Li Feng of The Intercept, he was posting... He was having some great tweets. He is actually pointing out, this is a quote from Li Feng, "It's pretty strange to have an election for DNC chair in which the voting members are consultants and lobbyists that benefit the status quo." So, and then some of the DNC voting members who are actually voting for Keith Ellison or Tom Perez, and they pretty much all voted, or all these lobbyists voted for Tom Perez. But oh, look, Tonio Burrigos, I'm not sure, but he's with Pfizer, Joyce Bayboy, Goldman Sachs, Marcus Mason, Lockheed Martin, Boeing. Okay, so yeah, so Tom Perez, who's now the new Debbie Wasserman Schultz, he's trying to tell us that the people of the Democratic Party, the voting Democratic group, we have the same shared interests as Pfizer, Goldman Sachs, and Lockheed Martin, Boeing. Okay, so yeah, we want to make drug pills and profit off of people. We want to scam the elderlies and scam the Wall Street market, and then we want to cause more war so we could sell more weapons with Lockheed Martin. No, see, we do not have shared interests with these corporations, and that's the problem with the Democratic Party. They pretend to be for the working class, and they say they're for the people, and they're not. It's just a lie. They're just not. The Republican Party at least openly says we want trickle down economics. We want to give tax cuts to the rich. You know, war is kind of good. At least they're not lying about what they're doing. So it's really ridiculous. And then one more quote. Here's a quote from Ellison. It says, "I want you to support Tom Perez. I want you to put your energy, your time, your resources behind making this the best Democratic National Committee it can possibly be." And that's just like what Bernie Sanders did with Hillary. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll get back to you activists later. Just come back and support our corporate interests. Come back and help big money screw you over more, and then eventually maybe we'll throw you a bone. You know, look, we gave you gay rights, so can we have to help the corporations more? And see, and that's the problem. The Democrats, they lie about who they actually help. They help the big money, the corporate interests, and that's who they're helping. They're not helping the actual workers and the individuals. And that's why Trump won, and that's why the Republicans are taking over the entire government, all the way down from mayors in cities all the way up to congressional districts, state and local, and all the way up to federal. They have full control because they're honest about what they want to do. They say it, and they have their convictions. You may or may not agree with what the Republicans want to do when it comes to getting rid of abortion, you know, expanding guns, you know, getting rid of the EPA, you know, tax cuts for the rich. They say they want to do this, and then they do it. The Democrats say, oh, we want to help the little guy. We want to engage in identity politics and talk about how horrible Trump is. But then they get in there and they don't really do anything, or they help the corporate elite. So, well, that's what we get. We get more corporate elite, and we get more status quo from Tom Perez. So I think this might mean 4 more years of Trump, and definitely it means in the 2018 midterm elections, the Democrats are going to get even more demolished, because midterms always favor the Republicans. So, and also Democrats usually don't show up. So, and with Tom Perez, and them accepting corporate money, pushing more corporate candidates, I don't see a very good future in the Democratic Party. So we'll see how this plays out, and we'll wrap it up from Open Mic's Last Call. Catch you next time. Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. If you enjoyed the show and the information brought to you, please subscribe and share the podcast. It helps us here at Punk Rock and Politics, but more importantly, it helps the featured bands gain exposure. Also, if you know any bands or musicians who would like to join the political mosh pit and have their music featured on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, please email us at punkrockandpolitics@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And rock on, political junkies.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives.
Doing a better job of talking to each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.